Zombies. Love them or hate them, they have shaped the horror genre in a way that very few have been able to do. Things like The Walking Dead, Dawn of the Dead, World War Z, and 28 Days Later. Though somewhat recently, there has been one zombie story in particular that my group and I have found to be truly creative and well executed. That story is Call of Duty Zombies.
When everything's been dragging you down, grabbed you by the hair and pulled you to the ground. If you wanna get up, you need a little revive.
Yes, Zombies. A series of modes in the Call of Duty games that made everybody who played them laugh, cry, and swear. A lot.
I have gotten to round 71 5 times in a row. 5 times in a row.
While the gameplay of this series is definitely the hook, and a fine one at that, there is a storyline in the series that is unlike most other games in recent memory. The only thing I could really compare it to is something like BioShock. This storyline, spanning over 5 games, is a real journey, however, and can get really confusing. So, after hours and hours of research, my group is going to explain it as simply as possible without melting your brain. So without further ado, let's get started. This cosmic undead freak show begins with the multiverse theory. As generic and overplayed as it is now, thank you Marvel, back in 2015 it wasn't as lazy. Anyways, way back in time, there were these godlike squid people named the Keepers. They floated around doing god stuff and eventually created the summoning key, which can basically do anything. This device eventually helped the Keepers create Agartha, which is basically the perfect dimension. However, the Keepers also discovered something darker, the Dark Ether, which is basically the opposite of our universe. This drove the Keepers apart, creating 2 factions. The Keepers, led by Dr. Monty, and the mutated Apothicans, led by the Shadow Man. The Apothicans dropped pieces of space rock called Element 115 to the surface of Earth, creating zombies. So the Keepers teamed up with the medieval era of mankind, and as a result, the Apothicans created a Dark Ether pyramid on the moon. Does anybody hear Pink Floyd? The Keepers eventually win the war and banish the Apothicans back to the Dark Ether with the help of 4 guys using magic stabs. These 4 are called Primus. This then splits our story into 2 different timelines. One where this Great War was documented, and the other where it was lost to time. I'm going to talk about the one that was lost to time first. So real quick, the important things to remember are Apothicans bad, Keepers good, and Element 115 makes zombies. So in this forgotten timeline, World War II is in full swing, and Element 115 is discovered by the Japanese and Germans, who create science teams to experiment with it. The German team, Group 935, is headed by 2 scientists, Dr. Richthofen and Dr. Maxis. Dr. Maxis attempts to use 115 to build weapons to sell to the Nazis, while Richthofen tries to build teleporters after hearing voices in his head from the 115 telling him to go to the pyramid on the moon that I mentioned earlier. Richthofen messes up, however, and sends Maxis' daughter, Samantha, to the moon, where she touches the pyramid and becomes empowered with the 115. And on top of this, she senses that Richthofen is crazy evil and sends zombies after him. However, Richthofen anticipates this and enlists the help of 3 test subjects of the 935 experiments. An American named Dempsey, a Japanese soldier named Takio, and a Russian named Nikolai. This team's name is Ultimus. Ultimus attempts to teleport to the moon base to stop Samantha, but they accidentally get teleported forward in time to the 1960s, and Samantha is somehow able to follow them, which is how zombies got to this decade. In the 1960s, the United States and the USSR stole all of the research and weapons made by Group 935, so again, the thing to remember here is, in World War II, Samantha controls the zombies, so Richthofen and 3 other soldiers need to get to the moon to stop her, but they get sucked into the 1960s. So Ultimus goes around the world collecting pieces of a device to bring them to the moon. During this, the Pentagon is attacked, so President John F. Kennedy and his cohort defend it best they can.
Sounds like someone breaking in!
Just a storm, Dick. Sit down.
Now, Richthofen has to get special monster blood as the last component for when he gets to the moon, for some reason. So they get it from a facility in Russia with the help of celebrities who are filming a movie there.
We're writing a new one! It's called Maggot Shack Massacre!
With everything ready, Ultimus goes to the moon and Richthofen turns on his team and uses the technology to swap souls with Samantha, giving Richtofen control over the zombies and attempts to take over the world. However, somebody else comes and steps in, Dr. Maxis. While trying to sever Richtofen's power to the Dark Ether, Maxis accidentally sends missiles to Earth, blowing it up. Now on Earth, which is blown up and covered in zombies, Maxis communicates with 4 survivors to start activating power modules across the planet that can stop Richtofen. However, one of these survivors, Stuhlinger, is able to communicate with Richtofen because he ate zombie meat, which is kinda weird. Richtofen tries to persuade the survivors, known as Victus, to activate the power modules in his favor, though all 4 eventually activate them for Dr. Maxis. One was in America, one was in China, and the other was in an old western town buried underneath the ground due to missiles from the moon. Once the modules are activated, however, Maxis takes his revenge on Richtofen, putting his soul into a zombie and teleports himself and Samantha to Agartha. And this brings us to the half point of the story. So just to recap where we are right now, Earth is destroyed, Richtofen is a zombie, and Maxis and Samantha are in Agartha.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Samantha knows her father is kind of evil and reaches out to Richtofen and Maxis from a different universe. This is where the second timeline, the one where the Keeper's War was documented, comes into play. In this time, Group 935 was formed much quicker, and an excavation was conducted in France during World War I. Unfortunately, due to the element 115, a zombie outbreak begins. The new Maxis is almost turned into a zombie, but Richtofen saves his brain and puts it in a drone. Meanwhile, other powers of the world send agents into France to investigate. This is how we meet the new versions of Dempsey, Takio, and Nikolai. This new group is now Primus.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
The 4 work together to the ruins of the Great War and use the drone Maxis to free Samantha. Once this happens, Dr. Monty kills evil Maxis from the other universe and puts the drone Maxis into a new body. Our newly formed Primus are told by Dr. Monty that he wants to create a new universe free of zombies and other evil. To do that, they need to kill the other versions of themselves from the other world. First things first, they need the summoning key, which is hidden in Morgue City. Unfortunately, the Shadow Man, the leader of the Apothicans, takes 4 of the citizens of Morgue City and traps them inside a zombie-filled version of it. These 4 citizens have all committed a murder. Jessica Rose was a dancer who was seen having a relationship with a movie producer. The news took pictures of this, so Jessica killed the producer to bury the evidence. Jackie Vincent is a crooked cop who killed a mob boss he was bribing.
Trust me, have I ever steered you wrong before?
Floyd Campbell was a boxer who killed a man in a match using brass knuckles in his gloves. And Jeff Goldblum was a failed magician who killed his wife and collected her life insurance to pay off his debts.
No, I can assure you, I'd never, ever think of taking such a course of action.
The citizens eventually trap the Shadow Man inside of the summoning key, and before they get it, Richtofen snatches it away. Then, Primus teleports to a Group 935 facility in another universe similar to the old one, and Richtofen kills Richtofen. Then they teleport to a castle in Austria to kill Dempsey. After that, they go to a Japanese facility in the Pacific Ocean dedicated to studying Element 115 to kill Takio. And finally, they travel to the Battle of Stalingrad to kill Nikolai during a truly sad confrontation.
You know what I speak of. You remember. Before the bombs fell. Before she was taken from us. Some things are forgotten. For a reason!
Once Primus returns to Agartha, Maxis accidentally lets the Shadow Man out of the summoning key, and he lets the Apothicans into Agartha.
Harbinger of doom.
Thankfully, Primus are able to contain the situation and kill the Shadow Man, but to ensure their own safety, they drank blood from another universe that was destroyed.
They're from realities we've already closed off. They shouldn't be here. They can't be here. Such a paradox means you're putting my perfect world at risk.
Dr. Monty, seeing that blood as a threat to his universe, sends Primus away back in time, and it's at this point it's revealed that these 4 soldiers were the 4 guys with magic staves mentioned during the Great War, and now everything is stuck in a time loop. Now, to explain that blood that Primus drank before they were sent back in time, the blood samples came from prisoners of Alcatraz in another universe that was stored in a lab that Richtofen built at some point. I'm gonna let my friend Jonas explain the Alcatraz thing because I need a break.
Thank you. Within the story, there exist 4 criminals stuck in a pocket dimension that resembles Alcatraz prison. These 4 criminals, Finn, Billy, Sal, and Al, also known as the Weasel, form a plan to escape the prison. However, this plan fails and the others kill Weasel out of anger. The Warden, ruler of Alcatraz, executes Bill, Sal, and Finn by electric chair. We later find out that this crew was in a time loop, a loop that could only be broken by Weasel killing the other 3 mobsters. Then, in between killing Takio and Nikolai, Primus is trapped on the island. Primus Richtofen decides to sacrifice himself in a blood-draining machine built by the Warden. This would end the cycle so they could escape. While the machine is on, Richtofen's aether-rich blood awakens Great War Richtofen from Revelations, who is frozen underneath the prison. The blood also creates portals to escape this dimension. With the help of the Great War Richtofen, the crew fights off the Warden, takes the blood, and escapes. This propels the new crew into the twilight of the story. Back to you, nerd.
Thank you, Jonas. Okay. After Primus escapes Alcatraz, they go and collect Ultimus from a jail cell in America and travel to Camp Edward to build something called the Agarthan device, which they can finally use to put an end to the zombie apocalypse. However, Dr. Monty reveals that he doesn't want to get rid of all the zombies, but to rule over the entire universe. So he kills Maxis on Agartha before Samantha gets teleported to Earth. Now the Agarthan device just needs to be built, and Primus, Ultimus, and Samantha will win. While they celebrate an early victory, Richtofen uses Victus, the survivors from the blown-up Earth, to assemble the Agarthan device and send it to the crew. However, Nikolai poisoned everyone's drinks, killing everyone except himself. He uses the Agarthan device to destroy the summoning key, which destroys the entire multiverse. All the zombies, all the catchy perk jingles, and all the annoying boss zombies on Zetsubo.
Giant spiders!
Nikolai kills zombie Richtofen and then has Samantha kill him, letting Sam and a child version of Richtofen walk into a new, brighter universe. And that's how everything ends. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you found this video, this roller coaster of information, entertaining and informative. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to see more of my videos, and I'll see you nerds later.
Yeah, I'm feeling good tonight. Finally feeling free and it feels so right. Oh, time to do the things I like. Gonna see a princess, everything's alright. Oh, no job but I answer to. Ain't a fixture in the palace zoo. No, and since the carbon night's off me, I'm living life now that I'm free. Yeah.